Hello and welcome students to EPG Pathshala of UGC. I am Divyakant Seth, Assistant Professor of the Department of Food Engineering and Technology, Tezpur Central University, Assam. I am going to discuss about heat convection in this module, which is a module of the paper Unit Operations in Food Processing. You must have observed your mom heating water in stoves. So here you see, or you must have observed how the water which is at the bottom of the pan goes up and the water which is at the top is going down. So, we will learn what is the mechanism of that heat transfer. So, in this case we will see that in that particular heating of water, we see that the density of the water which is getting heated at the bottom of the pan is reduced because it is heated, and since the density is reduced, it comes up, and the higher density water which is occurring on the top of the surface will go down. Because of the density difference, the heated water going off and the cold water going down to the pan. So, this is a very good example of heat convection. That means the individual particles, heated particles, are traveling from one place to other place, and in this way you are heat transferring. So, students, in this module we will discuss about the heat transfer, that is Newton's law of cooling. We will learn about some of the unitless numbers which will help you to solve some numerical problems related to heat convection, that is to calculate the heat transfer coefficient at different conditions. Also, we will learn about the combined convection and conduction processes. In most of the food processing plants, you may not see either a heat conduction solely or heat convection solely. It is a combination of both. Say for example, as I have given you the example of your heating of water in the pan. Heating of water inside from one place to another place is an example of heat convection, but heat transfer from inside wall of the pan to the outside wall of the pan is by conduction. So, overall this is a combination of heat conduction and heat convection. So, these cases we will discuss in detail. Also, we will discuss about the critical thickness of the insulation. This is more vital. So, if you go to any food processing plant, you will see that. So, the insulating materials are wrapped on pipelines on different walls. For economy, as a food technologist or as a design engineer, you have to know that how much of thickness I will provide, so that I will get the proper insulation. Critical thickness is one limiting thickness above which if you provide the insulating material, it may not serve the purpose. That means unnecessarily you are adding more insulation without any effect. So, that we will discuss. We will calculate, so what is the critical thickness of any cases. In the previous module, we have defined convection. Convection is a surface phenomena. Heat energy from a solid surface is transferred to liquid or gas adjacent to it. Heat transfer is achieved with a condition that the adjoining fluid must move. The heat is carried away by the moving fluid. Have you ever thought what is the mode of heat transfer if the fluid over a surface is stagnant? The mode of heat transfer would be conduction. If the movement of fluid is naturally happening, it is called free convection. The natural circulation is achieved due to a density difference between hot and cold fluid. Just like the boiling of tea in a pan. Instead of natural circulation, if the fluid flow is caused by some mechanical means like the use of blower or pump, the convection is called forced convection. Since fluid is a carrier of heat, the faster the movement of adjacent fluid, greater will be the rate of heat transfer. That is the reason why forced convection is better than natural convection in terms of heat transfer. You can see the demonstration here. Any substance try to come to the thermal equilibrium with its surroundings. If the substance is hot and environment is cool, heat energy is lost to the environment and make the substance cool. As for example, hot milk in a pan gets cool if we keep it for some time. Heat from milk is lost to the environment. Suppose the temperature of the hot surface is Ts and the temperature of adjoining environment is T infinity. That means there is a temperature gradient of Ts minus T infinity, or we can call it del T. The rate of heat transfer is a function of temperature gradient and exposed surface area. So, the equation of heat transfer will be Q equal to Hs into A into the temperature difference, that is Ts minus T infinity, where Q is the rate of heat transfer and the unit of this is joule per second or watt. A is the exposed surface area in meter square. Hs is called surface heat transfer coefficient, or we can call it film coefficient. The unit of Hs is watt per meter square Kelvin. Hs here acts as a conductor of heat transfer in a hypothetical surface film. Now, let us compare the conductance of conduction and convection heat transfer. The relation is Hs equal to K divided by del X. One important interpretation we get here is that heat transfer coefficient depends on the thermal conductivity of fluid. Furthermore, since the convection includes the moving fluid, the frictional resistance, that is the viscosity, and the fluid velocity affect the heat transfer coefficient. The convective heat transfer is more critical in analysis because it involves heat transfer at the interface of solid and liquid. So, many factors come to picture while we calculate heat transfer. Solid physical dimensions like diameter or length are involved in calculation of heat transfer. Now come to liquid or gas properties. Since heat transfer directly related to movement of fluid, the properties which are associated are fluid viscosity, thermal expansion, density, specific heat, etc. So you have seen many factors which are responsible in heat transfer. Let us simplify this by framing some unitless numbers. Let us simplify this framing some unitless numbers. First, let us discuss about Nusselt number. It is a relative comparison of conduction and convection heat transfer. A hydrodynamic layer near to the surface of solid is formed. In this zone, liquid motion is zero and the mode of heat transfer is mainly by conduction. Less the velocity of fluid, thicker will be the hydrodynamic layer and less will be the heat transfer by convection. For a better heat transfer at the interface, we require dominance of convection over conduction, which can be achieved by movement of fluid. Nusselt number is derived as Hs into L divided by K. When we talk about movement of fluid, Reynolds number automatically comes to the mind. This is the ratio of internal force to viscous force. Laminarity of fluid is checked by Reynolds number. We have already discussed it in fluid flow theory in module number 4. Another number is called Prandtl number, which is used to visualize the thermal boundary and hydrodynamic boundary. Hydrodynamic boundary is related to the viscosity of fluid and thermal boundary is related to thermal conductivity. As already we have discussed, thicker the hydrodynamic boundary, much difficulty we face to transfer the heat. It is the ratio of momentum diffusivity to heat diffusivity. That is equal to rho Cp divided by K. For a better heat transfer, Prandtl number must be small. For water, Prandtl number is around 10 and for gas it is around 0.7. Next come to Grashof number. Grashof number is the ratio of Buoyant force to viscous force. In natural convection, we have discussed fluid circulation is mainly maintained by density difference or in the form of. In natural convection, we have discussed fluid circulation is maintained by density difference, or in other terms, we can say the effect of buoyancy by which the light molecules moves up. If the fluid is viscous, the buoyancy effect will be less. So, a higher value of Grashof number is required. Grashof number is NGR equal to F buoyancy divided by F viscous, which is equal to rho square into d cube beta g into del T divided by mu square. There are the primary numbers which are used to calculate heat transfer. Some secondary numbers are also used sometimes. Peclet number is a product of Reynolds number and Prandtl number. Gray's number is another one number which is almost similar to the Peclet number, but here one characteristic dimension, that is diameter to length ratio is taken into account. With this understanding, now let us move to the calculation process. Now let us see how we calculate heat transfer coefficient. Calculation of convective heat transfer involves determination of heat transfer coefficient. Since it is a property of solid-liquid interface, there are many factors involved in the calculation. Heat transfer coefficient is not a constant property, rather it changes with temperature. Empirical relations are the only method applied to calculate heat transfer coefficient. There are various cases of convection heat transfer. For example, convection through vertical or horizontal cylinder, heat transfer through plane wall, etc. The fluid may be liquid or gas and so on. First, let us discuss the cases of natural convection. As you know, Nusselt number is a power function of Prandtl and Grashof number. Different researchers carried out their research at different conditions and found out that the power constants are different. Some few cases we will discuss here. Let us see for natural convection heat transfer through a vertical wall or a vertical cylinder. If the product of Prandtl and Grashof number is in between 10 to the 4 to 10 to the 9, the Nusselt number will be equal to 0.53 into NPR into NGR to the power 0.25. If the product of Prandtl and Grashof number is in between 10 to the 9 to 10 to the 12, the Nusselt number will be equal to 0.12 into NPR into NGR to the power 0.33. The above two cases were for liquid edge convective medium. There may be many more equations. You can refer any books for this. Let us see the case of air if it is taken as the convective medium. Other conditions remaining same. If air is used instead of liquid, the relation will be reduced to like this: Hs equal to 1.3 into del T by L to the power 0.25. And for horizontal cylinder, the equation will be reduced to Hs equal to 1.8 into del T to the power 0.25. We have discussed about the natural convection in vertical plane or cylinder. Let us see what happens when we calculate the natural convection in horizontal cylinders. As we already discussed, the Nusselt number is a product of Prandtl and Grashof number. If the product of Prandtl and Grashof number is in between 10 to the power 3 to 10 to the power 9, the Nusselt number will be 0.54 into NPR into NGR to the power 0.25, which is different from the vertical cases, and that is for only the liquid convective medium. Let us see what happens when air is used as the convective medium. For air, when the product of Prandtl and Grashof number is between 10 to the power 4 to 10 to the power 9, the Hs will be reduced to 10 to the power 3. The Hs is equal to 1.3 into del T by L to the power 0.25. And when the product of Prandtl and Grashof number is in between 10 to the power 9 to 10 to the power 12, Hs will be equal to 1.8 into del T by L to the power 0.33. Till now we have discussed two cases, that is natural convection in vertical wall and natural convection in horizontal wall. Now come to the case third. The case third is the forced convection in pipe. Now what happens when forced convection is there? When the fluid is forced, that means we are making the flow to a turbulent condition. In this case, if the fluid is turbulent and the Prandtl number is greater than 0.05, the empirical equation for Nusselt number will be equal to 0.023 into Reynolds number to the power 0.8 into Prandtl number to the power 0.4. For more viscous fluid, the Reynolds number exceeding 10,000, in that case what happens we see now. Nusselt number in that case at higher turbulent velocity will be equal to 0.027 into mu divided by mu s into Reynolds number to the power 0.8 into Prandtl number to the power 0.33. In this case, mu s is the viscosity at surface temperature. And for gases in forced convection, what happens we see now. The Nusselt number for gases will be equal to 0.027 into Reynolds number to the power 0.8. As I tell you repeatedly, these are all empirical equations derived by different researchers. They did the experiment and derived these equations. The power function they have derived, that is 0.8, sometimes it is coming 0.8, sometimes it is coming 0.33. These are all empirical constants. we have discussed about the forced convection and the heat transfer was inside the pipe. Now in the same forced convection, but we consider the heat transfer outside the pipe. What happens to the empirical equations? Now we'll see. For gases and for liquid at moderate Reynolds number, the Nusselt number will be equal to 0.26 into Reynolds number to the power 0.6 and Prandtl number to the power 0.3. Now if the Reynolds number is less, that is Reynolds number less than 200, in that case the Nusselt number will be equal to 0.86 into Reynolds number to the power 0.43 into Prandtl number to the power 0.3. Now we will come to the last case, that is case 5th, forced convection with heat transfer over the plane surface. In case of heat transfer over the plane surface, Nusselt number is equal to 0.036 into Reynolds number to the power 0.8 into Prandtl number to the power 0.33. This is when the Reynolds number is greater than 20,000 and the convective medium will be the liquid. Now what happens when gases are used in forced convection with heat transfer over the plane surface? Hs is equal to 5.7 plus 3.9 into V. V is the velocity. That V in this case is less than 5 meter per second. If the V is in between 5 and 30 meter per second, the Hs will be equal to 0.74 into V to the power 0.8. Till now we have discussed about different empirical equations for different conditions like natural and forced convection, in vertical and horizontal flows, and flows inside or outside the pipes. Now let us see the cases of combined conduction and convection. When combined conduction and convections are occurring, how we will proceed in our heat transfer calculation? In most of the cases in the food processing, you must have seen the combined cases of heat transfer. Say for example, a hot water which is flowing inside the pipe, the heat will be transferred from the inside liquid to the wall of the pipe, that is inner wall of the pipe is by convection. However, the heat transfer from the inner wall of the pipe to the outer wall of the pipe will be conduction. As you see in this picture, so there is a slab of the thickness del x. The heat is transferred from inner liquid to the wall is from Ti to T1, and in that case we can write it that Q equal to Hi into A into Ti minus T1, or we can write it as Q equal to Hia into del T. Now when it reaches to the wall, it transfers heat from the outside wall through conduction. So in this phase we will apply the Fourier equation. Heat transfer within the wall of thickness del x is represented as Q equal to del T, that is T1 minus T2, divided by the resistance, and the resistance here in this case is del x divided by Ka. K is the thermal conductivity and A is the area, that means exposed surface area. When the heat reaches to the outer wall, it tries to come out to the environment. That means the temperature will go down from T2 to T0. In that case again we will apply the convective heat transfer. So in this case the equation will be Q equal to H0 A into T2 minus T0. Okay. So three cases we have seen here. Two convective heat transfer from inner wall. So here we see that we see three cases, two convective heat transfer and one conduction heat transfer. The heat transfer from the inner liquid to the inner wall is by convection, that is Q equal to HIA into Ti minus T1. The heat transfer from the outer wall to the environment is again convective heat transfer, that we have represented H Q equal to H0 A into T2 minus T0, and the in between cases is the conduction, that is Q equal to T1 minus T2 divided by the resistance. Now see how to calculate the overall heat transfer in the system. Overall heat transfer will be Q divided by A, that is the heat flux, is equal to Ti minus T0, that is the total temperature difference in the system, divided by the resistances offered by the two convection layer and one conduction layer. So it will be 1 by H1 or 1 by Hi plus del x by k plus 1 by S0. We can represent these resistances in the form of overall heat transfer coefficient, that is U, where we write it as 1 by U equal to 1 by Hi plus del x by k plus 1 by H0. So putting this U in our equation, we can also represent this equation in this form: Q divided by A equal to U into the overall temperature difference, that is Ti minus T0. Students, now let us discuss about an important phenomena, that is condensation. What is condensation? To know about that, let us go outside. In winter, if we go outside in the morning, you must have seen some dews are attached on the grass of the field. Have you ever wondered why that happened? Why that has come? Let us see what is happening, what is the engineering behind that, or what is the phenomenon behind that. This happens because the vapor which is there in the atmosphere is cooled down below a saturation temperature. When it cools down below a saturation temperature, that means it gives off the latent heat to the environment. So that's why it gets cooled down, and the vapor of the environment gets condensed. That means the vapor is converted to liquid. This is the phenomena which is happening in the environment, so that you are getting dew in the grass surface. So in condensation, we will learn what are the types of condensation: the film condensation and surface condensations. We will discuss in detail in the subsequent slides. I have given you a overview of condensation. What is the importance of condensation and what is this phenomenon, by giving some natural example. Now we will see the types of condensation. There are generally two types of condensation which we see. The first one is the film condensation. In film condensation, the condensed water, we call it condensate. It forms a continuous layer over the surface without any gap. That is the reason why a resistance is offered to the heat transfer between the surface and vapor. Generally, film condensation occurs in inclined or vertical planes or cylinders. To avoid film condensation, we can use horizontal cylinders or short vertical cylinders. There is another type of condensation where the condensate are formed as drops and detached from the wall without flowing on the surface. So, continuous film formation is avoided. That is, maximum area is available for heat transfer. So, drop-wise condensation is considered to be better than film condensation. Why? Because in film condensation, heat transfer is restricted due to a continuous film formation over the surface, which is not happening in drop-wise condensation because maximum surface area is available for heat transfer to the environment. You may apply surface coatings to avoid film condensation. The empirical equations for calculation of heat transfer coefficients are given as. Now let us see how we calculate the heat transfer coefficient empirically by using empirical equations. The empirical equation for condensation on vertical tubes or plane surface is given as HSV equal to 0.94 into K to the power 3 into rho to the power 2 into G divided by mu whole into lambda divided by L into del T whole to the power 0.25, where the lambda is the latent heat of condensation in joule per kg and L is the height of plate or tube. Now see the case of horizontal surface. In case of horizontal surface, the heat transfer coefficient for condensation will be equal to 0.72 into K to the power 3 into rho to the power 2 into G divided by mu whole into lambda divided by L into del T to the power 0.25. In this case, the K is the thermal conductivity, rho is the density of liquid of concern, mu is the viscosity of the liquid of concern, and G is the acceleration due to gravity, and the del T is the overall temperature difference. So students, after going through the phenomenon of condensation, let us discuss about the boiling. Boiling is a very common phenomenon of heat transfer. Most of the time you will see in your household also anything you are boiling. So why this boiling happening? So let us take an insight into this phenomenon. Boiling occurs when at a particular pressure, if the temperature of the water or the liquid which you are heating exceeds a certain temperature, that is saturation temperature. So when it exceeds the saturation temperature, the boiling occurs. So what happens when boiling occurs? When boiling occurs, the first stage is that some bubbles are formed at the surface of the water. So the bubbles gets detached from the surface and comes out. So this is the boiling which is happening after it reaches a certain temperature, that is above the saturation temperature. So we will discuss in detail so how the heat transfer is occurring at different stages of boiling in the subsequent slides. Already I have told you in the previous slide that boiling is a liquid phenomenon of heat transfer. At a particular temperature, if the liquid surface temperature exceeds its saturation temperature, the boiling occurs. The boiling starts with small bubbles formation at the surface. As you can see in this picture, some bubbles are formed when liquid is heated in a stove. For a temperature up to 20 degrees Celsius, the bubble formation does not take place. That means the bubble formation starts only after 20 degrees Celsius temperature rise. So, heat transfer is very fast in this case, since there is no bubble formation. The film coefficient is in the range of 1200 to 60,000 watt per meter square Kelvin at this point of time. The relation of film coefficient with the temperature difference is given as H equal to 50 into Tw minus T saturated divided the relation of film coefficient with the temperature difference is H equal to 50 into Tw minus Tsat to the power 2.5. Beyond 20 degrees Celsius, the formation of bubbles are very rapid, and so the rate of heat transfer is very less. So students, after knowing the phenomenon of boiling and condensation, let us discuss about the critical thickness of insulation. Have you ever seen some pipelines are covered with thermocol in processing plants? Why they have been so? Because by providing the thermocol as insulation material, heat loss from the fluid at atmosphere is checked. Now, one question arises here is, how thick the insulation material must be given to serve its purpose? Let's see. See the picture here. The heat transfer from outer surface of cylinder to the atmosphere takes place by convection. If the outer surface temperature is T2 and atmospheric temperature is T infinity, the rate of heat transfer will be Q equal to HA into T2 minus T infinity, where the area will be A equal to 2 into pi R2 into L. L is the length of the pipe. Now, if we add some insulation, what happens to the equation? First, the radius R2 will be increased, and hence the outer area will be increased. But at the same time, the T2 decreases because thickness is applied in the direction of temperature gradient. As a result, the T2 value decreases. So in an equation, among two parameters, one is increasing and other one is decreasing. So one cannot say easily that whether the rate of heat transfer is increasing or decreasing. So what we will do now in this case? To clarify this confusion, the simultaneous conduction from inner wall to outer wall and convection heat transfer from outer wall to atmosphere is solved by taking the derivative with respect to radial distance and nullifying the equation. The R2 we find here will be the critical radius. For cylinder, it is K by H, whereas for sphere, it is 2K by H. At critical radius, heat transfer is maximum. If we add insulation beyond critical radius, heat transfer rate decreases. That means by adding the insulation, the heat transfer rate, we are not checking it. And if the insulation is less than critical radius, heat transfer rate increases. So it can be concluded that a minimum thickness of critical radius insulating material must be provided in the pipelines to check the loss of heat. So students, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. In this module, we discussed about the heat convection. We studied the Newton's law of cooling, how it is working in our day-to-day life in food processing. We studied different unit test numbers. We applied that in different calculations of heat transfer coefficients. Also, we studied about two vital operations, that is condensation and boiling. We discussed about that. Also, we discussed about the combined conduction and convection processes, which are very common in food processing plants. Also, lastly, we discussed about the critical thickness of insulation. I hope you will be able to calculate any kind of heat convection related problems after going through these slides. Thank you very much and have a good time.